Hello everybody, it's mid-October and we're up at our Wisconsin hunting property. This afternoon I decided to go ahead and change the oil in the John Deere 332 garden tractor. I usually do this in the springtime, but this year I just blanked it out. So I figured before winter sets in, I might as well get it taken care of. Now instead of starting the engine and circulating all of that oil and driving the tractor out, I'm just going to go ahead and freewheel it and roll it out of the shed. That way all the oil stays in the oil pan and I drain as much of it as I can. So come along and let's look at the steps of changing the oil in one of these little diesel garden tractors. Okay, the tractor's pulled out of the shed and we're ready to get going. Got our tools out, got some funnels, got an oil filter, got the recommended oil, 15W40. You can do an oil change on these with the mower deck on. I wouldn't recommend it. Reason being, if you look under here, you see where that drain plug is at, right in the middle of your screen? If you drain the oil with the mower deck on, you're going to get oil all over the front of your deck, all over your belts. It's going to be a huge mess, and I don't really want to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull the mower deck out the side, and then we can start the oil change. Now that we have the mower deck off, next thing we need to do, we need to lift the hood. We have to pull this side panel off so we can access the oil filter. That is held on by one single bolt right here. For that, you'll need a 10mm socket. That slides out. Now I always just put the bolt back in there so I don't lose it. Now that we've removed the side cover, we can access our oil filter right here. And we can access both of the oil fill caps. There's one on the left side here, and there's one up top on top of the valve cover. Either one will work. It's just whichever one you happen to want to use. Here's a little tip. Whenever you're going to change the oil on any engine, whether it's your vehicle, it's your tractor, it doesn't matter. Before you drain the oil out, make absolutely certain you can get the fill cap off. I used to work at a lube shop in high school, and I can't begin to remember how many times somebody brought a vehicle in for an oil change. The guy underneath drained the oil out. The guy up top couldn't get the cap off because the cap was busted or something. Now you've got a problem. So before we drain this oil, I'm going to make sure I can get at least one of these caps off. I can use the one on the side, but there's a little clearance issue with the fuel solenoid, so I usually don't mess with that one. And the one up top's coming off okay. There we go. We can get the cap off no problem. I'll just start it a little bit so nothing falls into there, and now we can go ahead and drain the oil safely. So your drain plug on the engine is right behind the cross member. That is a 3/4 inch bolt. So we're going to get our 3/4 inch wrench, and we're going to pop this thing loose. And we've got a drain pan underneath. And we're just going to go ahead and drain the oil out first. Fun thing about diesels, this oil is always just nasty black. I mean, I could change this oil, run it for an hour, and it's going to be black and dirty again. So with a diesel, don't worry too much if the oil's black. On a regular engine, that's a problem if it's this nasty looking. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to give this a minute or two and just let the oil finish draining out. Okay, the oil's done draining. Let's go ahead and put our drain plug back in. Now, I'm pretty sure that there is a torque spec for this. I'm also fairly certain that I have no idea what it is. So we're going to use the old German standard and just get it good and tight.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
I know that was bad. My apologies. Okay, let's move on to the filter. Okay, oil filter again on the left-hand side, right about the middle of the engine. And I've still got the oil pan down there in case some oil drains out of this. Tractor hasn't ran in a week. I'm thinking it probably won't. If I'm lucky, this will come off by hand. If not, I'll have to use a filter wrench. Okay, that popped loose. And no oil's leaking out. That's good. That's why I didn't start the tractor up. Okay, and you always want to make sure the gasket comes off and it doesn't stick to the engine block. If the gasket sticks to the engine and you put the new filter on, you're going to double gasket it and it's going to leak as soon as you start it. So take a rag, make sure the surface is nice and clean. So now we're going to take our new oil filter and we're going to put a thin bead of oil on that seal, just so when it screws on, the gasket doesn't try to stick and shift around. You put these things on hand tight. Again, consult your manual, see what the spec is, but I just put them on good and hand tight. And we're done with the filter. Last thing to do is go ahead and put oil in the engine. Now that we've got the drain plug back in, the oil filter's on. Only thing left to do is to add oil. And I have to reluctantly admit that I looked at the manuals. I could not find the oil capacity for this engine. I just don't remember what it is. Maybe in the engine service manual, but I couldn't find it in the tractor manual anywhere. So this is a 4-quart container. I'm going to put 2 quarts in, and then I'm going to check it. The problem with these Yanmar diesels, if you've ever changed the oil on one, you know the oil does not drain down into the engine very fast. So you have to be a little bit slow about pouring the oil in. Probably wouldn't help pop the dipstick up. It's a slow process, and you're going to want to give it, once you think you've added all your oil, probably not a bad idea to go ahead and give it a minute. Make sure everything drains all the way down. I don't know what it is with these engines. It's just the way they are. About a half a quart left to go. Okay, so I've got 2 quarts in. I'm betting it's going to take more than 2, but I don't want to overfill it. If you overfill it, then you got to go drain out some more again, and it's just a mess. So I'm going to give this about 30 seconds, and then we're going to check the oil. It's been about 30 seconds to a minute, so let's go ahead and check the oil. The dipstick, again, it's on the left-hand side, right behind the fuel filter, pretty much just above the oil filter. Just like anything else, you pull the dipstick out, you wipe it off, put it back in, and you can see that we are about a third of the way up the hash mark. So we've got some more oil to add. And at this point, we're just going to add a little and keep checking until we get it exactly at the top of that hash mark. Now you can see, got the oil right up to the top of the hash mark. The filter is going to take a little bit of oil when I start it, so I'm going to put just a dash more in, and then we should be good. And for what it's worth, looks like it took right around 2.5 quarts of oil. So we'll put our oil cap back on, get that snug, slide our air filter back in place, get our oil and funnels out of the way. Now we're going to start it up and make sure nothing leaks. I will just check that oil level one more time. Everything looks good. The only thing left to do now, put the side cover back on, remount the mower deck, put the grill back on, and we're in good shape. And that's all there is to changing the oil on one of these John Deere 332 garden tractors. Thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on another episode.